Welcome, future Woodbury Royals. This is Miss Hecht, one of the high school counselors. And today we're going to be reviewing registration information for your upcoming ninth grade year. Some goals for today, we'll review the high school counseling staff, provide you an overview of the registration process and timeline. We'll go over the graduation requirements as it is a super important part of registration. And then we'll review the registration materials and instructions. At Woodbury High School, we have a total of 6 counselors. Your counselor is determined based on your last name. So based on where your last name falls, then you can figure out who your counselor is. They're all listed right on the screen here. As high school counselors, we are trying to support students in 3 main areas. So we help support students in academic planning, and academic support. And then we do a lot of college and career exploration and planning with students. And then we'll really focus a lot on this too, junior, senior year, as students are getting ready and thinking about the next step in life after high school. And then we provide personal, social, emotional support to students. So if students are struggling or need a trusted adult to talk to, we are a really good resource for students and parents. So on the screen here, you see the graduation requirements. So students must complete this to graduate Woodbury High School and receive a Woodbury High School diploma. Our school year is divided up in 3 parts. So we have trimesters at the high school, and then students have 6 classes each trimester. Every class students will take at the high school, they will earn 1 credit for, meaning that they will end up with a total of 18 credits per year. So within the required classes for graduation, students must take English all 4 years that they are in high school, and must complete a total of 12 credits in English. Students must complete 9 credits in math. Within the math requirements, students must complete Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2. Some students start completing their high school math requirements in middle school if they are in the advanced route. Oftentimes, students will complete more than what's required for graduation for math as they're wanting to prepare themselves for college and the different careers that they're wanting to go in. And then students need a total of 10 credits within the social studies credits. Students must complete 2 geography credits, 3 world history credits, 3 US history credit, 1 political science credit, and 1 economics credit. And this is all divided up by the different years. And we'll talk about that a little bit later on. And then for science, students must complete a total of 9 credits, so meaning they need 3 years in science. Within the science requirements, students must take a full year of biology, and then they can pick either between chemistry or physics, but they must have a full year of either chemistry or physics. And then the other third year is typically an option. They get an option to pick from the different options for that third year science. Oftentimes that third year ends up being the physical science that they take in 9th grade. And then students must complete 2 credits in fine arts, and we'll review that shortly as well. And then students must complete 1 general physical education credit. So this is super important to understand, that a lot of students will take the general physical education credit in 9th grade. However, they can take that in 9th, 10th, 11th, or 12th grade, but they must have that completed by the end of senior year. And then also it's super important to understand that we have different PE classes that are available for students at the high school, but there's only 1 PE class that will count for graduation, which is the general physical education class. So make sure that you plan for that, whether you're taking a 9th grade year or whether you're waiting till senior year to take it, but it must be taken for graduation. There is a health credit that is required for graduation as well. Health is embedded into the schedule, meaning that students do not need to register for health. Health will be added to student schedules usually a week before the year starts for students. And health is embedded into their English classes, meaning that health teachers will go into English classes and teach students different health curriculum throughout the year. Students will get a quarter credit of health every single year. So students will have a 0.25 credit in ninth grade, 0.25 credit in sophomore year, junior year, and senior year, adding up to a total of 1 credit by the end of senior year. And then students need a total of 22 electives before they graduate. So all these courses that we talked about as far as the requirements goes, students must complete a total of 66 credits to graduate from Woodbury High School. So the electives and the required class all are going to add up to the 66 credits. Oftentimes, students find themselves having more than the 66 credits required for graduation. As long as they're passing classes and challenging themselves, they often have more than the 66 credits. So on the screen here, this talks about the different fine arts requirements students can take. So as you remember, students must take 2 fine arts credit. So every class students take counts for 1 credit. So students must take 2 of these listed courses on the screen. So for students that are maybe interested in the traditional art classes, they can sign up for ceramics, drawing, painting. If you're not interested in this, the typical traditional art classes, there are different options that you can take as well. So as you can see, we have business, family, consumer science, and music classes that count towards fine arts. Remember, music and band are year long. So if you are going to take any like band, choir, orchestra classes, those are automatically going to count towards your art credits. As long as you take 2 trimesters of that, then you'll have your 2 art credits completed. So on the screen here, it shows a 9th grade schedule. So at the high school, our school day starts at 8:30 and it ends at 3:06. We have a 6-period school day, meaning that you'll have 6 different classes during your school day at the high school. 4 of these classes are going to be core classes, so meaning that you'll have English, math, science, and social studies. And most of these classes are going to be year-long. So except for ninth grade, your social studies class might be 2 trimesters instead of 3, depending on which route you go. So 4 of these classes are going to be your core classes, and then the other 2 are going to be electives. It's super important to understand and remember that you do not need a world language for graduation. However, if you are planning on going to a 4-year college after high school, we highly recommend that you sign up for a world language. That a lot of 4-year colleges require 2 years of the same world language. We offer different world languages at the high school, including Spanish, French, Chinese, Mandarin, and German courses. And then American ASL language as well. So ASL does count as a world language. So if you're looking at going to a 4-year college, we recommend that you take 2 years of the same world language in high school to meet that requirement for college. Okay, so now we're going to break things down into more specifics as we think about 9th grade registration. So one of the requirements for 9th grade is English. Students must take an English class. English is going to be all year long. There are 2 very different English classes students can take. So ultimately they end up being the same class. It just, they do different things in there and they go at a different pace in there. So there's going to be English 9, and that is your typical English 9 class that students can take. A lot of students end up going that route. There is an online option for English 9. And then the other option is Honors English 9. So Honors English 9 is for students who maybe need a little bit more of a challenge. Students who do really well in reading and writing and find themselves maybe bored in regular English. Maybe that's a route that particular student might take. The biggest difference between English 9 and Honors English 9 is how fast they go. So in Honors English 9, they go at a much faster rate. The rigor, so the work that you do in there is going to be harder in Honors English 9. And then the amount of work that you'll have a lot more reading each night and a lot more work that you'll be doing. We typically encourage you to think about like how much time that you're spending outside of school doing other things and your balance as you're thinking about taking honors classes. And then typically for honors classes, you want to plan for about an hour or an hour and a half of homework each night. And there might be some summer reading too for your English, your honors English class. So when you're trying to figure out which English class to take, some things to do are: one, look at the course guide, read about the difference between English 9 and Honors English 9. And then the other really good option is to talk to your current language arts teacher in 8th grade. They would be a really good resource for you to talk to about, what is the difference? Is should I take Honors English 9 or should I stick with English? The other thing too is we'll have a rural opportunity night where students can talk to the teachers at the high school. That might be a really good opportunity for students who are considering an honors class. We'll talk about rural opportunity here later on. All right, so students must take science at the high school as well, especially 9th grade. Science is an all year long class, so students will have that for 3 trimesters as well. It is super important that students they pick their science class based on what is a good fit for them and based on the conversations they're having with the middle school science teachers. So one of the options for science is physical science, and that is a class that reviews physics, chemistry. It is kind of a basic introduction science class for 9th graders. And this is a class that actually I would say the majority of the 9th graders take in 9th grade. And there is an online option for this class. The other option is biology. So biology, we have a small percentage of our 9th graders sometimes take that. And this is typically students that really enjoy science and math and are in the more advanced route. Students that are taking physical science currently in 9th grade will typically end up taking biology. Students that are taking physical science currently in 8th grade will end up taking biology in 9th grade. So typically the best recommendation is what science are you taking right now? If you're taking 8th grade science, most students who are taking 8th grade science will go and take physical science. However, if you're wanting to take biology, that is an option for you, but it's super important that you talk to your science teacher to make sure that is a good fit for you. On this section here, it breaks down the different pathways that you would take for science depending on what you take in 9th grade. So as you can see, there's 2 different pathways students can take if they take physical science in 9th grade. They all will go in and take biology sophomore year, and then junior year is where it kind of breaks down, where it might some students might take chemistry, the others might take pre-AP chemistry or physics. There's difference. Again, and remember, for science, we require 3 years of science. So if you are committed to taking an advanced route in 9th grade, just know that you're going to be moving at a faster rate for science for the next 3 years if you're signing up for biology. So that is why it's super important that you ask your teacher, talk to your parents, make sure it's a good fit for you if you're registering for physical science or biology. And then some other things to consider: look at the course guide. Don't make decisions based on what your friends are taking. You need to make decisions based on what is a good fit for you and what you need to be successful at the high school. All right, the other requirement is social studies. Social studies is a little bit different in the sense of it might not be all year long depending on which one you take, or it might be year long if you take the AP or Spanish Immersion Social Studies. So remember, all the other math, all the other core classes, including math, English, and science, those are going to be all year long, meaning you'll have those for every single trimester that you'll in 9th grade. For social studies, you will have it either 2 of the 3 trimesters or 3 out of the 3 trimesters, depending on which route you go. Human geography is one of the options. That's your typical 9th grade social studies class. And there is an online option for that. And then there's AP Human Geography. So AP stands for Advanced Placement, and that is a college level class, and it's actually the only college level class that you can take in 9th grade. So some students might choose to go that route, and that is 3 trimesters, and so you'll have that all year long. And there is an online option for that. How do you decide if you want to take regular versus AP? Big things to consider, do you need a challenge? Do you do really well in reading? In AP and human geography, you're doing some reading. They're going to be, it's, as we were talking about earlier with honors, it's going to be similar in the sense of you're going to be moving faster in that class. You're going to have more homework. You should plan to about an hour to an hour and a half of homework every night for that course. And then you're going to have more challenging work in that class and generally. So if you're looking for a challenge, then AP is maybe something for you to consider for human geography. Talk to your social studies teachers if you have questions. There's an online option for that. And then the other option is Spanish Immersion Human Geography. This one is pretty simple because if you are not in the Spanish Immersion program, then you don't take the Spanish Immersion Geography. If you are in the Spanish Immersion program, then that's what you would sign up for geography. You must sign up for Spanish Immersion Human Geography if you're in the Spanish Immersion program. And that is going to be 3 trimesters as well. So it's super important to understand that because that takes up as one of your elective spots. All right, so math is simple in the sense of it's sequential. So based on what math you're taking, so the math that you're taking right now in middle school will determine what math you'll take next year in 9th grade. If you're currently taking middle school algebra, then next year you'll take intermediate algebra, and then you'll see kind of it breaks it down for you what your options will be for sophomore year, junior year, senior year. If you're currently in 8th grade taking high school algebra, then the next year you'll sign up for geometry. And again, this breaks it down for you as well. And then if you're taking, currently in 8th grade, if you're taking geometry, then next year you'll sign up for algebra 2. And then if you're taking algebra 2, there's a few different options that you can take. You can take algebra 3, trigonometry, and stats, and that's broken down into 3 trimesters. That's where a majority of the 9th graders typically end up if they're taking algebra 2. Otherwise, some students might go the pre-calc route where you take pre-calc in 9th grade, or you might take AP stats. How do you determine which one you take in 9th grade if you're taking algebra 2? Talk to your math teachers. That will give you information about which is a good fit. And then you can also talk to your counselors as well. It's super important that you understand math is sequential. So you can't skip a math. So ultimately, like if you're taking a certain math in middle school, you have to follow that pathway. Algebra is required before you can take geometry. Geometry is required before you can take algebra 2. So it's sequential and you can't skip certain spots, okay? All right, so this screen here reviews the different options that you can take later on in high school. So AP advanced placement, AP classes are college level classes that you can take at the high school where you take an AP test at the end of the year and have the potential to earn college credit. College in the schools are college curriculum directly. We work with the University of Minnesota and Mankato, and they give us the curriculum for certain classes, and they are taught at the high school. And then students can earn college credit. And then post-secondary enrollment option is an opportunity available for later on as well. It stands for PSEO, and it's where students can take college classes at the college. So they go off campus and take those classes. And they can do that part-time or full-time. If a student is looking at taking PSEO, the only really super important thing to understand is that you must start, you should probably start having a conversation with your counselor as early as sophomore year to start getting ready for that. If you're wanting to take PSEO junior year, then you'd have to make sure that you have a plan figured out with your school counselor the year before your junior year. So sophomore year, you'd have to do a lot of planning for that. Vice versa, if it's senior year, then you'd have to do it for junior year. The 916 are a lot of offers a lot of career and technical education courses or hands-on classes and this is a program where students go to Century College and are bused there, so the transportation is provided, and they take classes. Some examples: we have some auto mechanic classes, we have some cosmetology classes that are available, some medical careers courses, dental hygiene courses students can take, and that will be available junior and senior year. And then Genesis Works is an internship program students can do either sophomore, junior, or senior year. And you can learn more about that when you get to the high school. And then Project Leadway is also another great program for students, and this is actually available to 9th graders, and this is more specific, focused on engineering. So if you have an interest in engineering and you have strong math and science skills, this is a good way to look at it. Some of these college level courses provides students an opportunity at weighted classes, meaning that they have the GPA looks a little bit different for some of these classes. So your typical high school classes are weighted on a 4.0 scale. However, classes like AP classes, CIS classes, and Project Lead-A-Weight classes are weighted at a higher level. So it is weighted at a 1.2 multiplier for some of these courses. So instead of having, like if you get an A for these classes, for example, instead of getting a 4.0, it's a 4.8 on your GPA impact. And then next year, Washco is going to be offering a lot more online classes. So there will be 50 plus online classes options available for students. It's super important that students understand that if you're wanting to take an online class next year through Washco Online, that you start having conversations with your parents right now, as you will have to sign off on a contract. And then you can review the different options that we have for online classes. There is a separate presentation that has information about the online classes. It's super important that you go through this presentation if you're interested in the Washco online classes. That presentation is embedded with this PowerPoint. You can find that presentation also on the high school website as well. So there's different ways to access it. And then here we just go through the profile of a successful online learner. Some things to consider, think about last year as in the pandemic when we did all virtual learning. How did you do? Did you find yourself struggling? If you did, then maybe online isn't a good fit for you. And if you did well, some things to consider outside of that is, your time management skills, communication skills, study habits, self-motivation, academic readiness. Some things to consider is last year when we did virtual learning, online is not going to be the same format. It's going to be a very different way. Last year when we did online format, a lot of the work was condensed. You didn't have very much homework that you had. When you're taking an online class through Washco Online, just remember it's going to be just like a regular class that's offered at the high school with the same amount of homework, if not more, except instead of it being in person, it's going to be available virtually, and students at the high school will be able to work in different parts of the building on the courses, or if you have multiple classes, you might be able to leave campus and work at home if you have transportation. But super important that you have conversations with your parents now to make sure it's a good fit for you. All right, so this on the screen here just shows you a registration worksheet. So like for English, these are your options. We reviewed all these options here. You'll circle, as you're registering for courses, you'll circle which course that you'll take next year, and this has the course number on here. And then a super important tool in helping you register and plan for not just ninth grade, but also planning for future years like sophomore, junior, and senior year is the course planning requirements. Course planning requirements goes through your graduation requirements. On the flip side, it has a course planning worksheet. And on the worksheet, it's going to have ninth grade laid out for you, sophomore year, junior year, and senior year laid out for you with all your required courses. As you can see on here, you have your English, your math, your science, your geography, and then anything else will be electives. On here, General Fayed is on, this is a sample because a lot of students will take it in ninth grade. And this helps you kind of plan for like, okay, here are my classes that I'll be taking in the ninth grade, and here are my electives. And then you can kind of break it down sophomore year, junior year, senior year. It's super important to plan for the next 4 years, especially if you're a student that's taking electives that are run year long. For example, if you're a music and band student, music is all year long. And then world language is all year long. If you're planning on taking music and world language, that's going to take up pretty much all your elective spots. So it's super important that you do 4-year planning to see how you're going to fit your general physical education into your schedule, how you're going to fit your art courses in your schedule, all those things. And then if you are also a Spanish immersion student, remember you'll be registering for a Spanish immersion geography class, and then you'll be registering for a Spanish immersion language class as well. So that's going to take up a lot of space in your schedule, meaning that you should plan for sophomore, junior, and senior year to make sure you can fit out all your required classes that you need to take and all the classes that you potentially might want to take for electives and whatnot. All right, so registration materials that we reviewed, there's a course registration worksheet that you'll be filling out, and then there's a course planning instruction and planning worksheet that you'll have to kind of plan out your next 4 years at the high school. Super important tool that you'll be using for registration is the course guide. So the course guide will have information about the specific classes that are offered at the high school. The course guide has all the classes that are offered for the 3 different high schools in the district, East Ridge Park and Woodbury High School. So be mindful as you're looking through the course guide that you look to see that the courses that you're reading about are offered at the high school, Woodbury High School, because some of the courses might only be available at Park High School or East Ridge. So it's super important that you pay attention to all that information there. And then I highly recommend that as you're registering for classes that you go on your course guide and you read about every single class that you're registering for. That way you have an idea of what's going to be included in those classes, especially for electives. Students often sometimes forget to look up electives and read about the electives, and they just pick the elective based on just the course title. And then this is the back of your course registration sheet. It has a math chart that tells you which math that you'll need to take based on what you're taking this year. So middle school algebra, you'll take algebra, intermediate algebra. If you're taking high school algebra in 8th grade, you'll take geometry, etc. We reviewed a little bit about this earlier. And then it'll have the different electives and things like that. On here, it's super important to also know that there is a summer course option for incoming 9th graders, and that will be the junior ROTC class that's offered, the Air Force course. And the class that will be offered this year will be Survive and Return, which will be a wilderness class. So it's pretty much, how do you survive in the wilderness? And students can sign up for that for next year. Okay, so then on here, we'll go through the information about how do you find the registration information. The one thing that I ask you to remember is that if you want to access any information about registration, go straight to the high school website. That will have the most up-to-date information about registration. So once you go to the high school website, you can Google Woodbury High School, or you can type in WHS at sowashco.org. And this will take you right to this website. When you're on the website, you'll just look for an academic tab and you'll click on that, and then that will take you to this page, and then you'll just look for the registration 2022-2023. You'll click on that tab, and that will take you to this page, and this will be one of the last clicks you do. So you'll click on the registration 2022, and this will bring you here, which gives you all the information. So on here, you can access the 9th grade course registration worksheets, and then you can access the course guide as well. You can also access the course guide another different way that might be quicker. If you go to academics, click on course guide, it'll take you directly right to the course guide if you're just looking for the course guide. Okay, so the course guide is available digitally, so you can find that directly to the high school website. And that is the best way we recommend that you access the course guide, because that's going to have the most up-to-date course guide to the district. Okay. Super important information to understand for registration. All students must register for 18 classes, and then they must pick 5 alternate electives. So on your course registration worksheet, you'll see at the very bottom, there'll be alternate electives that you can pick. Super important that you pick those 5 alternate electives, because those are your backup plans that you need in case you don't get into your chosen elective for whatever reason. If you have a missing course request, or if an elective for some reason doesn't work in your schedule, we'll use those alternatives to replace one of those courses that might not work with your schedule. Please understand that if you do not pick alternative electives, then the courses that you might be able to take will just be based on what's available. So the best way for you to get the best schedule that you want is, 1, to plan and think about what classes you need to take and should take, and 2, to make sure you're registered for all the classes that you need, including picking your 5 alternate elective courses. Please remember that what you register for impacts what classes we offer at Woodbury High School. These classes will be the ones that you'll take next year. Plan with a purpose. What do you want to accomplish at Woodbury High School for the next 4 years? Fill out your course planning worksheet. Use a pencil, filling out your course planning worksheet and filling out your course registration worksheet. Make sure you fill out your course planning worksheet before you do your registration worksheet, because it's an opportunity for you to brainstorm what the next 4 years might look like for you in high school. Okay, super important to plan ahead, but remember, you'll only be registering for ninth grade for next year. Some super important dates to remember. The counselors have already visited the middle schools once in December. We will be back at the middle schools for our second and last visit in January to actually help you register. So when they were there last, they gave you a registration worksheet that you need to fill out and make sure it is completed before they come back in January. Please understand that your worksheet does not you're not registering when you fill out your worksheet. There will be a step 2 where you will actually register for your class in January. So make sure you are at the visit. And if for some reason you're not there any of these days, connect with your middle school counselor. So the counselors will be back at Woodbury Middle School on Thursday, January 13th to help students register. And then at Lake Middle School, they'll be back on January 19th. Okay, another super important registration event to keep in mind is the Royal Opportunity Night. Highly recommended for incoming ninth graders and their parents, where they can learn more information about the class choices. They have an opportunity to talk to their high school teachers, to talk about like rigor and placement, especially if students are having questions about, do I want to take an honors class? Do I want to take an AP class? That would be a really good night for you to come and talk to some of the high school teachers. And then you can also that night provides an opportunity for students to learn about the different activities and sports that we offer at the high school. And then you can also ask your questions to administrators and counselors. So some things that we need you to do before we come back in January to your middle school. Review all the registration information, go through the course guide, attend Royal Opportunity Night, talk to your current teachers about any questions that you have about your classes for next year. And then also you must complete your registration worksheet, that pink sheet that we handed out when we were at the middle schools last. That must be completed before your next session. So, and I know some of your teachers might be collecting it before we come back to review it. And then on here, just a quick overview. This is a sample schedule for a student that is in the Spanish immersion. 2 things to remember: if you're in the Spanish immersion program, you will be registering for Spanish immersion human geography, which will be year-long. And you will also need to register for Spanish immersion language. It's not the same thing as Spanish 1. It's 2 different classes. So on here, it just shows a sample schedule, what that might look like. Something to keep in mind here: you have 7 different elective options that you can pick from in ninth grade. On here, the student crossed off the 7th elective. There's a good reason for that. They crossed it off because Spanish immersion is 3 trimesters, so that does take up 1 elective spot. If it's confusing, just count out your classes as you're registering. You should have a total of 18 classes. If you have more than 18 classes when you register, then that means you are over-registered, okay? And then you'll count the courses out by course number. So on here, for example, you'll see the English. You'll have 3 different English classes, 3 classes, because it's going to be 3 trimesters. Science, it'll be 3. History, it's 2 or going to be 3 depending on which one you take, like we talked about. And then math will be 3. And then your electives will be 6 or 7 electives, okay? And then your alternates are going to be at the bottom here. And then this is just a sample schedule for a student who's just taking a world language. So this student's taking ASL as their world language. World language takes up 3 spots in their schedule, and then the rest are going to be electives. And then this is a sample schedule of a student that's taking music and world language. Music takes up 3 spots in your schedule, so does world language. So it's important to kind of break this down. As you can see, band will take up 3 spots, Spanish will take up 3 spots, and ultimately there's only going to be 1 general elective spot. If you are taking one of those geography classes that's going to be 3 trimesters, you won't have that extra elective spot to pick from, okay? All right, well, happy registration. If you have questions, contact your current middle school counselors.